Hello, and welcome to another episode of Loaded Magickzines. I am SlimMonster, and joining me just today is AstralWorkshop. What's up, bud?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. So how's everything going, man?
Oh, things are chill, man. Like I was saying last episode, it's we're going into the slow season, so getting to change gears a little bit and work on other projects, and especially working on a lot of personal projects, which is always fun. So, yeah, having a blast. What about you?
Oh man, I just been working all week. I've been really trying to just have like myself to get. I've just been working on my schedule. Jeez, I cannot talk today. I don't know what's going on. I guess Josh not being here today is kind of like messing up the feng shui of everything. But whatever. Um,
Thanks, Josh.
yeah, kid. Anyways, we appreciate you guys tuning in today. Josh is not here today. He has some family in Alawatcha, Florida, and so he is out there enjoying his family time with that, and that's cool because he probably wasn't prepared anyways. I appreciate you guys listening in today. If you guys could subscribe to us, like everything, that would be really cool. We're trying to get it going. Today's episode is one of my favorites because we started it as our second episode last week. So, last season. So we're doing it again. It's our favorite mysteries part 2, and I really think we have some good ones. Like between me and Rob, we don't even need Josh because this stuff is good. um, but did you read anything cool this week, or did you watch anything good or anything that you want to review on this week?
Yeah, man. Where to start? Man, I guess I'll just get into some tattoo stuff. Like I said, it's slowed down a little bit. So now is the time of year to really rotate out your the big projects and whatnot. But started another one recently, and I really dig it. As a design, I think I showed you, Colton. I texted you the original drawing, but it was the one with the goat, and he's got the as above below symbol right here is like a
Oh
halo,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then it's got the bone architecture that was inspired by the bone church, or the bone church, and I think it's the Czech Republic. And then it's got like this skull up on top with the laurel, and he's got this pre-existing lettering that says "Death to Tyrants,"
Huh.
and so it's just a neat, half sleeve. I'm really digging on getting into that one. Yeah, there's been a couple more projects been getting into like that as far as like line work, and we'll be getting into shading and stuff like that. But built a couple machines this week. Built up a couple machines just from frames lying around. I got a ton of frames just lying around, and I'm sick of looking at them being unbuilt, and so I'm making it a goal this winter to build every single frame that I have, on top of making new ones, but just building up all these old ones that I just have lying around. And then as far as like media goes, been playing a lot of Skyrim lately. Been doing a lot of the mod thing. I'm playing the Dragonborn quest for like the fourth time now
That's a
because
great one.
like a lot of people, I've been playing it for 10 years,
Yeah,
so
totally.
I played on my PC, and so there's a lot of mods on the PC that you don't get on the PlayStation and vice versa. But my daughter's really into Skyrim too,
I
and so
am
we'll,
I'm a huge
huh?
Skyrim fan, and Josh actually just told me earlier today when he told me he couldn't make it. He said they're doing some sort of release for the 25th anniversary, or I don't know, I don't. It's 25
The
years,
10th
10th
anniversary.
anniversary, yeah, 10th
Yeah,
anniversary that they're releasing it again, which is really cool because I'm a huge fanatic of it too. I've played it over and
yeah,
over and over and over again. And they're
yeah.
gonna do a new mode where it's a survival mode. So it's like it's still the same game, but you have to eat food. You have to like build
That's
like it's more
that's
survival like.
actually that's actually how I have my game set up.
Really?
The one I'm currently playing. Yeah, I've got it. I've got the mods where you have to eat food, you have to drink water, you've got to get
Yeah.
sleep. I had it like you get wet, you get damp.
Huh.
That'll affect your stats. Like
Yeah.
I even
See.
had it where I even had it where you got like frostbite and whatnot, but it was too it was too hardcore. You know, it wasn't fun at that point. But yeah, you like stand next to flames and like your character will like
Huh.
put their hands over the fire
That's
and warm
cool.
them up and stuff. But yeah, it's a trip. And then like I've been doing a lot of like the OP like spell mods, you know, just kind of playing around with it, you know, like silly little things like repeater fireball, like a machine gun fireball spell, and you know, launching boulders at people. Or my daughter got one that's called launch, and like you can launch yourself like higher than the throat of the world, like like up in the air, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just crazy jump spells and stuff. So
That's fun.
I don't know, that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. It's just like I'm trying to like interact more with the characters and trying to get my character to marry Lydia, you know, just something dumb like that. And yeah, it's fun, man. And then I just watched the show, the Netflix show Arcane, League of Legends. My daughter and wife just watched the first 2 episodes of that yesterday, and I just watched the first one today, and it's an awesome show, dude. Like I highly recommend it if you're into animation, you know. And it doesn't even have like a really anime vibe at all. It actually kind of feels a little more like the old school rotoscoping that they used to do back in the day, but it's not even that. It's all computer generated, but it is a really well polished show.
That's
It
cool. I'll have to
looks
check
really
that
good.
out.
Yeah, I highly recommend it, dude. Yeah. What
I
about you?
I think this week, what did I do this week? I finished reading X-Files Year Zero. I like bought it at Second and Charles, and I've been kind of putting it off. I'm a huge X-Files fan as well. Like I'm a fanatic at this point, really. And I was like, oh, cool. I got this new one. It's called Year Zero, thinking that it was gonna be a whole series that at least have like 6 volumes. And I read it really fast, and then I started looking, and it was only that one, and I'm just like, I'm left unsatisfied, hungry for more. But it was fine. I enjoyed it. It definitely was mystical. I'm just very, very disappointed that I didn't take my time with it, I guess, you know. And
that show was huge back in the day.
it was, dude. And honestly, like for me, it's like Mulder and Scully. Like Mulder is a criminal psychologist. He knows how to analyze people, and you know, he has that gut tuition, but he's like Harvard trained, top of his class. But you know, Scully, she's medicine, and so like it's like both of it's like right side thinking and left side thinking. It's like it's balance, and it's like I think that's why I'm ultimately drawn to it. It's just their character individuals.
Yeah.
But after that, I picked up a new comic book called, or a graphic novel, I guess, called Punk Rock Jesus. It's like, yeah, it's interesting. I have kind of just started it, but basically it's like there's a new reality show that's taking the Shroud of Jesus, and they're using it with like a top clone expert to clone Jesus for a reality show. Yeah. So it's like, and they're like on international waters doing it, and it's like it's I love the concept of it, and like I'm not one to be all about like Jesus, you know what I mean? I'm Buddhist, you know, but I'm like I'm into it so far. It's really cool. It's really gory and actiony. It's interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been enjoying that. But other than that, I've been watching like old cartoons from Cartoon Network, and not really anything productive there. But at least for my reviews for comics, that would be it. So,
Dude, speaking of Cartoon Network, and I think it was on, no, it was on Adult Swim. What was Adult Swim on? What network was
yeah,
that?
Cartoon Network.
It was, okay.
Mm-hmm.
There was this one, I have an old DVD of it, and I want to say I have an old book of it too, called Foolie Cooley. Have you
Foolie
ever seen
Cooley.
that one?
I love Foolie Cooley. They made
Dude.
a psychedelic romp. I read the manga, and I watched Foolie Cooley like a million times. It's definitely one of my most favorite animes, my most cherished too.
Yeah, it is. It is really out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and I dig on that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I dig on like the really weird, surreal kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I was talking to someone a little while back about the old Eastman and Laird Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics. You know, and I had this trilogy set, and it was about this leech that Raphael, you know, he's just being his normal punk self, and they're training and whatnot, and Raphael gets this leech on him, and the leech keeps coming back to him, and it's basically over the course of, the first book. I can't remember if it was just the first book or whatever, but the leech basically sucks all the mutagen out of Raphael. And so Raphael's like a little baby turtle now. And they got to find this leech who is now a humanoid psychopathic serial killer, who impersonates this police officer and is just killing random people. And they had to find this leech and kill him and get the mutagen back so that Raphael can be a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle again. And I always thought that was a dope story, but there was one too that I had a while back. It was kind of more of a graphic novel, like it was more self-enclosed and a bit bigger of a read, but it involved like Splinter. And it was a really surreal book. And to be honest with you, I can't even really remember how the story goes, but I remember just the art in it. The art like had a very like Dave McKean, like I was talking about Batman's Arkham Asylum, had a very Dave McKean surreal feel to it, and I dig on that kind of stuff.
Dude,
had a real glitch kind of feel to the art.
That's cool. Yeah, I really appreciate Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle comics because it's really nothing like the movies. The comics are always like way more in depth, a lot more intense. Like the one I was reading is Universe, and it was like the Ninja Turtles are at war with another brash of mutants, all while they're being prosecuted, going up against government agencies. And there's like these deep, intricate wars and games that are being played. And it was kind of interesting. It's crazy how and the art was also amazing too. It's just like they do get good artists. And Ronin, the newest one that came out, is like really deep. They're like fighting to be a Ronin, and then they have to kill each other or whatever. But I haven't read it yet, but I've heard it's just amazing. But it's crazy.
Dude, that's just dope, man. The movies to me just sucked. They were just money grab. Like it was always about.
As a kid, I loved it. But yeah, you're right.
The books, as far as Ninja Turtles go, and even the game itself that was on the Nintendo, that game was so freaking hard. But it was really good. But like with the movies, like you see like really extreme differences in like how they deal with characters like Casey Jones.
Right.
Casey Jones was a badass. And you never really saw much of like Bebop or Rocksteady. Like I don't even remember if Krang was in them, and Krang had that crazy robotic body. And
right, there's like so many more. There's like the rabbit. There was like there's like there's a story with a fox. Like there's so much like that has been kind of swept under the table.
Yeah, I mean, even the Foot Clan felt swept under the table, so it is what it is. But
yeah, I love comics.
Yeah, me too.
I don't even know how we got on the topic of Ninja Turtles, but I'm always down to talk about Ninja Turtles, that's for sure. And let me see if I got anything to say here real quick. I kind of have it all written down so I don't forget what the hell I'm doing. I want to say thanks to everyone this evening. If you have joined us before, we have a podcast. We try to play video games. We've been having trouble trying to find a new video game that has been easy for us to all cross-platform and play together. We thought we had one, and then we didn't, and then we're just going to kind of experiment. So until then, I guess we'll just do Zoom meetings. Me and Rob were also talking, and we may just do a whole nother show completely later where we're just playing video games, so that way we don't have to focus on talking. Everything's still kind of up in the air. We just like to do this stuff for fun. Damn, I'm bad. I'm really bad at this.
I know, I've been having to really edit myself.
Yeah, I really need to learn how to do it. I used to do so good, but it's just been like, I don't care anymore, but I do care.
Yeah.
So if you're probably watching this live, you're watching it on twitch.tv/SlimMonster the Witch, SlimMonster _ the Witch. But you can also check us out for other available content at YouTube. You can just search also SlimMonster the Witch with spaces instead of underscores, or the show Loaded Magickzines. Like and subscribe. That would really help. We'd really appreciate that. So let's maybe just go ahead and jump into what we had today. You want to do that, Rob, or
Sure.
anything else you want to tell me?
Oh, I got all kinds of stuff to tell you, but nah, we'll just jump right into it.
Okay, I think that's a good idea because I think what you would tell me would probably hurt my feelings, and I'm not down to cry on
No,
camera.
no, I'll just go off on I just go off on tangents, man. Like I'll talk about anything, like Ninja Turtles, man. Like like I said, I just happen to randomly talk about it, and then I'll just start talking about some other random stuff, and we won't even get onto the topic today, you know?
Whatever, it's a show. All right, we'll just go ahead and
Right.
jump into it though. Go ahead and do your thing, man.
Okay, so today's topic is about our favorite mysteries, and I saw this one. I read about this one where it's an old game. I want to say it's from 1982. I've got the manual, or I've got this study that was done right here. Yeah, it's from 1982. It's an Atari game called Entombed. And researchers today who are developing like virtual reality games, virtual reality universes, are trying to basically reverse engineer the coding of this game. I don't know if they're doing it with other games specifically, but definitely this one to try and understand how the procedural generation works in the coding. And for the life of them, no one can seem to figure it out. And uh, they don't really understand how the coding was written back in 1982. And to be able to understand how the procedural generation works in this game would make it a lot easier for these developers to apply said procedural generation, or at least the application of it to apply application. Yeah, it's the same thing. But be able to apply it to these virtual reality, matrices, these mainframes, whatever, what have you, the games that they're trying to, or the universes that they're trying to develop today. Even though we do have games that do have procedural generation, like No Man's Sky, for instance. Entombed does its procedural generation in a really special way, and it's really basic. Like the game was kind of, it looks a little clunky, but it was 1982. And so the way that the generation works is, you either have a 1 or a 0. It's either creating a pathway for the character to move through, or you have a wall. And the character could get these like special power up things that would allow them to either create a path of their own through a wall if they're being chased down by like a zombie, or they could create a wall behind them if they're being chased by said zombie. And so being able to understand like what the basically the equation was, the formula that was used to write this 1-0 process, so that there's always a pathway for the character to move through, is what's baffling people. They just don't know quite how it was done. And I find that kind of fascinating. It's just like, here you have this game that might have been forgotten, as time goes on, and now it's like being realized, how genius, this coding really was, and nobody knows how anyone did it. Like, I don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even know if the programmers are even alive still.
Yeah.
You just have like this hidden knowledge, just unlocked in this coding, of a game from the early 80s.
Is there some sort of clue? Is there like maybe suspects to, or how it could have been programmed or come to be?
I mean, they understand like the programming language, and like I said, they're trying to reverse engineer it and whatnot, but they don't understand exactly why it does it, like why it does the thing. They understand how it does it, and that's using like the coding language and whatnot, but they don't understand why the formula works the way it does. You know what I mean? Like, it's a subtle thing.
Yeah, I think last episode we were talking about random acts, or maybe it was just you and me having a conversation. But do you think this is like, in the universe, sometimes random acts happen, and like that potentially could explain the Big Bang, or it could explain, certain miracles. Just sometimes random things happen. Do you think that could potentially also happen when it comes to coding? Do you think
Absolutely.
random? Yeah.
I think it's all relevant, like when people create things, like, yeah, absolutely. There's an ordered chaos, to how everything kind of goes together and happens. And You know, it's the same thing as like, take, for example, you have like ancient buildings, that people these days have no idea how these people back in the day did these things, and maybe it was, maybe there was a plan, or maybe there was technology that was used that we don't have any idea about. But I think sometimes, things are just done and like
Hmm.
nobody knows,
Hmm.
it's just,
Right.
it's a mystery,
It's just
you
like
know?
it needed to be there because it needed to advance what we need. So it's just had to show up. It's just like nobody made it. It
Right.
just shows up. It's like I just heard that nobody knows who named the planet Earth. It's just always been called Earth. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like
Right.
that thing. If it needs to be, so mote it be, you know?
Or it's like, who came up with the first flame? Like who was able to harness fire?
That's a great point.
Did they get it from a forest fire? Was it a lightning strike? Did they
How could they
actually figure
recreate
out
it? Who learned how to
did they
recreate it?
figure out friction?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. So that's almost like I like giving that example. It's like that, and especially in 1982 when technology was not as advanced as it is today. That is almost like prehistoric fire being made in a digital sense.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, it really is. To think that such a basic game, if they could figure out how this or why this equation works the way it does, could be, groundbreaking for current, virtual reality environments and whatnot, So
Yeah, that is fascinating.
yeah, it's really interesting, I don't, it's kind of a double-edged sword for me, because it's like one side of me is just like, well, yeah, that'd be dope. Let's see what that entails, let's see what happens if they do unlock it. The flip side of that coin is, well, what happens if that thing, the equation or why it does what it does, what if it's just too powerful?
Right.
And then you create like this Pandora's box, and they move forward with virtual reality, and applying it to that, and moving forward and whatnot. And it turns out it just, it becomes such a powerful thing,
Right.
that who controls it,
Right.
might make it a bad thing,
Right. Yeah. And
So
then like sometimes, like new equations can be found all the time. Like what if this is just one equation that we really just don't understand that yet, has not been discovered? A new potential
uh,
futuristic equation. I don't know, but I don't know.
yeah, who's to
Interesting.
say, you
Yeah.
know?
That's great.
So
So it took place in 1982. Do you know who made Entombed? Do you know like the company that made Entombed perchance?
let's see.
And
Yeah.
I mean, are they still a relevant company?
No. Well, it says here it was done by Atari, but Atari's, kind of, I think they're like defunct now. Let me see. Hang on. I'm just gonna look it up real quick.
That's all right. I was curious. You got Google at your fingertips.
Right. Hang on. Well, we're not on Fortnite, so now I can like look
Mm-hmm.
this stuff up.
Right.
It was developed by the designer was Tom. It says here Tom Sloper. The programmer was Steven Sidley, and the developer was Western Technologies. I haven't heard of any of these
I
companies.
haven't either.
US Games is the publisher, and they went defunct in 1983.
Wow.
So it's hard to say. Like, if I don't know if any of these people would even be around anymore. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this was like almost 40 years ago.
Yeah. And that's early 80s too. Like real
Yeah,
like that's
that was
some
30. Yeah,
for,
yeah. Next year it'll have been 40 years. 40 years.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So who's to say? Like, maybe that knowledge. If, say, like, those programmers were older back then and they passed away since then,
Mm-hmm.
who's to say if that knowledge got taken with them? You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's models of how the maze works. There's models of how it does the thing, but it's understanding why it
Mm-hmm.
does it. Why does the equation work?
That's like
So
early AI.
hmm
Yeah.
in a way, yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of weird.
It's literally just creating fractals of ones and zeros.
That's
You know what I mean? Like, it
yeah.
just goes on infinitely, and it always creates a path for the character to be able to move through the maze.
That's
Like,
crazy.
just wrap your head around that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, it's never not going to be able to have a path for the character to walk through as the maze scrolls up the screen.
Yeah. And I find that interesting because you said this is like a basis of how we use VR now. And as I mentioned in the last episode about Meta from Facebook and how it's trying to be in this whole completely VR world, that blows my mind. Do you know what I mean? That just like kind of trips me out. Like, I don't know, especially because we don't know where it comes from. It's just so had to be, you know, it's just that's a weird mystery. Love it. So weird.
Well, and that's the thing too for me is like when you have something like Meta, you know, and based on my opinions that I talked about last show, I find Meta to be kind of a dangerous thing, you know, and you know what happens when you have folks that are so ingrained in this virtual world that there's no real overlap anymore between the virtual world and the physical world. Right. You know, like that's where people are living their lives, doing business. And then you throw something like this crazy procedural generation, which, you know, if you could apply that to a place like, I don't know, Ready Player One or whatever, you know, like this world that Meta's trying to be, you know, the possibilities are literally endless.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and that kind of power, you know, in that context of Meta, I'm just like, ooh, like it just doesn't feel right, you know, to me. Like it just the abuse of power is too great, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. So. And especially when it can be capitalized and prioritized, and then it opens up almost a whole new can of worms of, you know, how it's going to be used even, you know?
Right, exactly. And then what happens, you know, like when you're able to, and you know, there's people researching all this kind of stuff, you know, they had people researching, you know, how casinos in Las Vegas kept people, you know, on slot machines and whatnot to make things like Instagram more addictive, you know, and it's like, what happens when you apply all that context and all that, you know, research into something like Meta or whatever VR universe that you're trying to make, like this other Second Life type deal. And now it's like it's affecting people at the neurological level in such a degree that they actually become like so addicted that how do you pull someone off of that? Like, does it get so much to the point that the brain can't tell the difference? And now you've pulled someone off that's so entwined in that virtual reality universe with, you know, this type of power that you might literally just kill them.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a whole new thing that could arrive from it. It's like, you know, it's the medical field when its earliness arrived. It was like, oh, you know, knock a hole in someone's head, that'll get rid of a headache. And now we find out, like, you know, 50 years later, don't do that. You know, so like we're at that stage here with virtual reality. So yeah.
Well, you know, have you ever seen Ghost in the Shell, right?
Yeah.
The original animation.
Yeah, the anime. Yeah, it's been years though, and I watched it when I was a kid, but.
Okay, so Major Kusanagi is going around town trying to find this guy that is basically like, I can't quite remember how it goes, but he's like making all these little phone calls and stuff, and they're trying to trace him because he's like affiliated with this like hacker entity that they're trying to find. I can't remember the name of the hacker.
I do remember that part. Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that.
Yeah, and the guy they're looking for is a garbage man, right? And they catch him finally, and I want to say like Major Kusanagi like has like a straight up like fight, like just brawls with this guy. It's like a crazy like martial arts scene. Anyways, like they've got him like in the police you know, center, and they're talking to him, and he thinks he has like a wife and a kid, and you know, like he's living this life, and like it turns out that this hacker entity that he's doing all these little jobs for basically just created an entire virtual life. And now that he's been disconnected, he realizes that none of it existed.
Wow.
Like this life that he thought that he had, that he was living, it doesn't exist. Like they even show him like this picture, and he thinks like he sees his family like in the picture, and then they show him the actual picture, and it's just a picture of his dog. You know what I mean?
I think I
and so like this whole and like he's completely jacked from this, like this revelation that this life that he thought he had was completely fabricated.
Right.
You know, like how do you come to terms with that? And so like I think that's things like that, we're absolutely headed that way.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
like that's a very real scenario, you know, moving forward into the future.
I mean, I can just imagine how catatonic someone would go after that. Like having that type of reality shift could be like mentally disabling. You know what I mean? That could really shatter your whole frame of existence of understanding. You're totally right. That could have dire repercussions. Absolutely.
It's like, what is real anymore? You know what I mean? Like, what is the point of coining anything as being real?
Yeah.
You know, because then everything is as real or as fake as the next thing. You know, the digital or the physical or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's neither heads nor tails, because the brain is going to believe what the brain believes. You know, and they talk about low jacking people. I think we're going to start seeing technology like that, you know, at some point in the next 20 years, if not sooner. You know, and it's like, there's the ethical side of that. You know, it's just like, are you going to put part of a corporation's, like, you know, are you going to put like a corporation's like technology, like their IP in your freaking brain?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, they still own that. It's like the gas company, when they come by your house to check the meter, they can absolutely come on your property because they own that land. They own that bit of dirt that gas line runs through.
Right.
Regardless if it's on your property, they own that.
Right.
You know, and so like that's kind of how I see it. You know, with like VR and low jacking and all this kind of stuff, is like you basically kind of sell yourself to that corporation. Like they kind of have property and like rights inside your brain.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's pretty intense, you know, like for me to, you know, just to think about that, you know, I don't know, man, it just feels like a Pandora's box, and
absolutely,
I can see why people get into it. You know what I mean? Like I know people that are
the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and you know, it's like, it seems nice. It's like, oh, now we get, you know, less time to do this, or now I have an assistant, a digital assistant. Now I have like, you know, this, I have that, but you know, sooner or later we'll see it, you know, and I hope that more good will come out of the future than bad, but like we do have to see the warning signs, and yeah, that's totally one for sure.
Well, you know, it's like when you talk about cyberspace, you know, a lot of the problems that we see cropping up these days is because of the internet, you know, and the internet is not a bad thing, you know, like the internet's a really good thing, but
information shared that much faster, but also can be messed up.
There's a lot of bad people that use it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, what, 50 years ago, like somebody hacks a gas company and jacks the prices up on the Eastern Seaboard, you know, and no one has gas. Like that was science fiction. You know what I mean? 50 years ago, like that would have been a movie, you know, and nowadays it's just like, it's just whatever, dude. Like it's another article in Yahoo. Right. You know?
Right. Yeah. And you're right, because like I don't know. You're right though. Yeah, it's nuts. It's crazy.
I just, you know, like it's gonna happen regardless. Like, just like AI, it's there, you know, like, and it's gonna keep being developed, and they're gonna eventually probably be able to figure out how this code works, you know, in this game, and apply that to virtual reality mainframes and whatnot. Like there will be progress made, you know. It's just that you have to acknowledge the potential pitfalls, you know, that'll happen, you know, when you've got this, you know, crazy technology. Like it's just it's borderline magic, you know what I mean? And absolutely. It's like when you're in it, it's normal, you know, it's everyday life, just like you and me. We're talking on this little magic device, right? You know, and we're like on other side of town from each other, but yet we're talking to each other instantaneously through light waves, right? And then whatnot.
People that are all over the United States or even just in another city could tune in to watch us talking, you know, like there is a whole bunch of, you know, opportunities there. You're right. Yeah.
And you know, we take that for granted, you know. And so it's like, again, like, you know, kind of hashing back a little bit on this research to understand this procedural generation of this 1982 game, that the way I see it is like people just don't give a damn,
Mm-hmm.
about the potential pitfalls because they just want to see the thing developed.
Yeah.
And then they'll just kind of deal with it as it comes, and
Yeah.
it's like, what happens when it's like Pandora's box, it's like, what happens when you can't go back,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And, but then again, like, would you even really know it because everything's normalized, just like, the whole, what is it? The simulation theory, that's always an interesting one, that we all live in a simulation. And, if that there's like part of a theory of the theory is that like if a quantum computer can be built, which we have the capability to, there are quantum computers being built, then it stands to reason then that a quantum computer has already been built,
Right.
and we just exist in a simulation
Right.
already.
Yeah. That is.
Just by the very like idea that it could exist, it does exist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And,
So
and even if it does exist, and now you've made that realization, and it's like, would you want to go back, or
right.
do you try to get
Yeah.
out of it, or
Yeah, it's like the red pill, blue pill kind of thing. And so I don't know.
Mm.
I the simulation thing, it's fascinating. And to be honest, like I don't really make heads or I don't really get into it too much, because it doesn't really change the fact that we're still experiencing this human experience.
Right.
But as we're experiencing the human experience, like, you know, does there, is suffering actually optional? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Totally.
can
Totally.
we do something to make the experience a little bit nicer?
Yeah.
And so I think that virtual reality, as much as some people want to see this good and connection and whatnot come out of it, you also got to acknowledge that there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff coming from that too. There has to be a balance.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. That was a really good one, and I called that the unbreakable code of entombed. That's your little section, and that's definitely a good one. If you guys want more information, Google it. But if you guys want to check out more of Rob, do you want to just lay down your plug real quick? I think we could just do it anytime.
Yeah, I'm Rob Carter, Astral Workshop. This is my basically just an entity I created to encapsulate all my creative endeavors. My website is astralworkshop.com, and my Instagram is at astralworkshop.
Cool. Yeah, make sure to follow him and check out his website. He has a lot of cool stuff. Do you put your like tattoo guns on your website too?
Yeah, I do have a section for machines. Yeah, and I do need to. I need to add quite a few. I need to do actually quite a bit of updating with the pics and the material. It's just, you. It's crazy to think, 6 months just flies by like that, and
Yeah.
there's all this material that needs to be added and whatnot, and then another 6 months, flies by. So, but yes, I do have a section on there for machines.
Cool. I was just curious. You guys should definitely check out his machines. He does some really cool work with them. And if you guys are listening and you guys do tattoos, just buy one from him because they're cool. Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and get into this next section if you're down. I came with kind of a cool little mystery, and I hope you're down. So let me go ahead and get into it. So our story takes place today in the late 1800s to early 1900s, when a body of a woman was pulled out of the river. I'm not going to pronounce this right because I'm not French. Seine River in Paris, France. It's one of the major rivers in France, and it's always has like terrible pollutage in it and stuff like that. They try to clean it out, but it's hard to do. Anyways, it's a major river. I have it up on the screen now. But a body of a woman was found, and she was pulled out of the river, and so no one knows what happened. They were really unable to see how she died, other than perhaps drowning. Back in that day in late 1800s, 1900s in France, what they would do is when they would send a body down to the morgue and they weren't able to identify it, they would put it on public display. And, basically I'm going to jump back a little bit. Her death was completely unsolved, with theory swirling around that it was either suicide due to the calm look on her face, hitting a peaceful, wanting death. Another theory that they had, no one knew what really happened, but another theory was that she had wronged some gangsters, some French gangs, and ended up in there. But there really was no discernible reason as to how the woman lost her life. But after she was pulled from the river from the morgue, as I said, they went and they didn't know who she was, so they displayed her body out in public, and nobody was able to identify her. However, once it happened, everybody really took notice of this girl and how beautiful she was, even in death. Everyone noticed her, and one gentleman noticed her so much, and he asked the mortuary, if he could make a plaster of her face before they like just buried her. So he did. So they ended up making a plaster of this woman's face, and soon this plaster became huge. It was a huge success. They ended up making masks with this woman's face, masks that were widely used throughout the whole entire area. And then eventually they used this face to make like model figurines where they would pose in different things, but they used this woman's face. It became so huge, in fact, it spread from Paris and it went all over France. And then from France it went to Germany, and then it went to the rest of the whole United States. So it's pretty crazy. So it's just, so not the Eastern United States. The rest of Europe is where it went. She eventually used his face for pretty much everything. There was also a whole generation of German women who modeled their looks after this mysterious woman. And in fact, a lot of dolls that you find in Germany during the early 1900s will be, especially if they're from Germany, they're going to be modeled after this woman. So let's fast forward to maybe 1940. One day, this gentleman is named Asmund Lordell. I think he was from Norway. He made toys, and one of his most famous toys was the Andal. He actually created the Andal. During the 1940s is when plastic started rolling around, and they started making toys out of plastic. So he became a very well-known plastic toy maker. One day, as Asmund is chilling in his lavish mansion because he's a famous toy maker, his son almost drowns. So his son almost drowns, and he panics, and he brings him up out of the water, and he saves his life. And he doesn't know CPR, but he does end up managing to push the water out of his son's lungs, and he saves the son. So he takes the son all the way to the hospital, and they're talking about it, and the doctor's like, not a lot of people know CPR. We really want to make CPR a more known and widespread thing. We know you're a toy maker. Is there a way we can make something to help everyone learn how to do it? So the toy maker's like, yeah, okay, cool. So he teamed up with the doctors to create a CPR dummy that has been widely and regularly used since the 1960s. But the thing they had to model the girl off of was the face of the woman that was found in the river. So she has been used. She's known as the most kissed woman in the world because of the CPR. And it's very ironic that she was dragged out of the river only to teach people how to save lives when drowning. And no one knows to this day who she is. She's been used in tons of paintings. She's known as I forgot what they call her. What's that really famous painting? Oh, the Mona Lisa of the River. They call her the Mona Lisa of the River because of how much her imagery has been used. No one knows how she died still to this day. No one knows who she was. No one knows the thing about her, but everybody has kissed her. You know what I mean? And this mystery just has fascinated me. I remember hearing about it, and I've always just truly wondered who this person could have been and like how they died. You know what I mean? It's a crazy story, one of my favorite stories, and it definitely leaves me with so much intrigue. You know what I mean? And what a lot of stories were created about her because no one knows how she died, so it just left so much opportunity for stories to be told about her. And so that's pretty much all we have off of her, and it just makes that mystery so much greater. You know what I mean?
That's crazy that as publicized as she was, that nobody recognized her at all.
Yeah. It makes me wonder what were the contexts leading up to that. I can imagine some sort of because like I can imagine some sort of irony happening where the guy's like, no one will ever remember who you are, and he throws her in the river, and now everyone knows, like everyone knows what she looks like, and now is used to save lives. That's just my only imagination going on, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Pretty interesting.
that's nutty. You know, like just thinking about how today, you know, you got dental record forensics,
Right.
fingerprints, DNA, all
Mhm.
this kind of stuff, and back then you just didn't have
You
that.
have
You know,
nothing.
like I don't even know when the FBI started using fingerprints. I want to say like when was it, the 1920s? I
No.
guess.
Oh, fingerprints. Yeah, fingerprints for sure. I want to say probably 20s or 30s. But I was gonna
And
say,
even then, like it was laughed at. I remember that hearing about, like reading about that, you know, how the people that were developing or the person that was developing it was like just laughed at, you know, just like,
right.
oh, this is just so stupid, you know, like you're not going to come up with anything about this,
Hmm.
but
And
yeah.
real hardcore, genuine forensic science wouldn't even be around for like another 100 years for that woman. You know what I mean? It really just makes me question, like like it just kind of bugs me that her death is never, never solved. We never know who this woman is. That's really what kind of bugs me. It's like we've used her likeness and didn't even give her any credit for it. I don't know.
Right.
Mm,
Yeah, exactly.
it's interesting.
So it says here that the French scientist Paul-Jean Coulier, I don't know if I messed that up or not. I guess he's French too, but developed a method to transfer latent fingerprints on surfaces to paper using iodine fuming. It allowed the London Scotland Yard to start fingerprinting individuals and identify criminals using fingerprints in 1901.
1901. So that
Uh,
that technology could have possibly been there. I think her death was like closer in the 1800s, so maybe not quite. So it may have been too late, just by barely.
yeah, yeah. That's just, yeah. I mean, that's too bad, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
it's so bizarre, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that this woman has just been popularized and,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just a part of the societal subconscious, and yet no one really realizes, you know, that like she's so well known as like the CPR doll or whatever, but no
Right.
one knew her,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's fine. We'll just make tons of things out of her image. No big deal. It's fine. She's dead. And as they
Yeah,
said, there's no sympathy for the dead.
that's just so bizarre to
Mm-hmm.
me, you know, like I don't know, like maybe that's part of it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like no one was tied to her, no one could claim any kind of like intellectual property or rights
Yeah.
or whatever, because you know just it was just a blank slate,
Yeah.
you know, as far as like, you know, anyone knowing her or having familial ties or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a crazy one, dude.
Yeah, quite odd it was. I always enjoyed that story. I remember hearing it a little bit before. And I remember I was trying to like do a story that was at least halfway decent from last time because I did the Max Headroom incident and I really liked that story. And I was like, dude, what can I do that's always stuck on my mind? And it was just like, boop, popped up in my head. I'm like, that's the one. So thought I'd give it
The
some air.
Max Headroom one was really good though.
I
I remember
love
that.
that story. I really do. That was a great story. Like I am mysticized by that. Like, dude, that's pretty cool. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like what we were talking about, you know, like things that are developed, you know, just random happenstance. And I think that just happens in life in general. Is just
Yeah.
people just drop off the earth, you know, like people do things, you know, that just can't be tied to them,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't happen often, but I think maybe, or at least it's not like recorded as often, but I think it happens a lot more than people realize,
Yeah. Totally.
you know.
Totally.
Just
Yeah.
like Donnie Darko, you know, just weird time tunnel stuff, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like just
Yeah.
things that just blip in and out of existence, you know,
Dude,
like just, yeah.
that would be a great explanation to how it even happened too, because like once again, it's like it just kind of happened, and now we use this on a regular basis. It's just like that code, like it just kind of happened, and now it's used to perpetuate the future of VR. These are like what is that ultimate happening? Is it is it her? She accidentally popped into it from another dimension and died here. Because there's stories of the people from the Bermuda Triangle popping up in like 50 years later, like Like,
Yeah.
there's so much. Yeah, that's so crazy. What is?
Anything's possible, man. Like,
Mhm.
she could have absolutely like just reality slipped her way in from a parallel dimension,
Mhm.
or parallel reality. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about stuff like that in the previous season, like with quantum physics, and the one that I was covering with, wormholes and black holes, and
Mhm.
the 10 dimensions of reality. And
Right.
it's like, if quantum physics can prove that there's 10 dimensions of reality, and the 10th dimension is quite literally knowing anything that has ever been real or imagined ever.
Yeah.
Like a tree's dream, a frog's idea, some random
Yeah.
alien on a planet 6 billion light years away, every possible history, every possible ending, like that's ever possibly could ever be in any reality. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Totally.
if science can prove that exists, absolutely, this
Yeah.
woman could have come in from a parallel dimension.
And that
You
would
know?
probably make more sense than anything, like as we see technology now, like when I go into my social media, it's I already feel like I'm in the internet. That's another layer of existence, another dimension that I'm able to just pop in. I'm able to send messages to people in this dimension, even a text message, and they can understand my emotions. That's a whole nother level of dimensions. Like they didn't have that back then, sure, but I'm sure there was probably other dimensions that could. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I just feel like that. Like if nobody knew her in this dimension, maybe she was from another dimension. Either that or someone's a really good liar, and somebody
Well,
probably
what
is,
if?
but
Yeah, a really good liar.
somebody probably is, but
What is that one? It's not remote viewing, but it's like, what's the one where like someone can communicate with like someone else, and they can be like in other countries or other
yeah,
sides of the world.
yeah, totally.
And they don't need internet or telephone or anything. They just do it. Like they just
No.
open like a little. They just kind of scry almost.
Yeah,
Like they just open like this little rip in space time.
I can't remember
I
what that's
can't
called, but I know what you're talking about.
remember what the hell it's called, but yeah, dude. Like when I had learned about it, uh, apparently
Remote
like
viewing.
it was, huh?
Remote viewing.
Is it remote
I
viewing?
think it's remote viewing. Yeah, it's like because the government tried to do. That's how they try to spy. The remote viewing. It's where you can like. It's the idea is you can.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like the whole thing of like Stranger Things,
Right.
like that whole premise. Hang on, I'm gonna look it up to see what the actual term for it. They're calling it clairvoyant
Yeah,
viewing.
clairvoyancy. Yeah, clairvoyancy. See, in my opinion, it's when you are able to tap into the Akashic records and just you're a little delayed of what's happening presently, if that makes sense.
So when I was reading about this like years ago, I read this example. Dude, I can't even remember where any of this stuff came from, but what I was reading is that like monks who lived in like abbeys, like they just lived like practically like hermits, guys that brewed beer, like in the Alps or something.
Right.
They lived in monasteries and stuff. Like it was like a clandestine ability that they were able to teach people in these like fraternal orders of how to use this clairvoyant viewing, but also this clairvoyant like communication where they could communicate with each other like across Europe.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm gonna go into this little alcove over here, and I'm gonna go talk to, brother Francis,
Yeah.
who's 800 miles away. We're gonna have a quick conversation right now.
Hmm.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
like holy crap, that's so cool. You know?
I think that is possible because like vibrational thinking, like if you're on the same vibrational frequency as somebody, you're almost able to read their mind sometimes, and it's like sometimes you'll do it with your best friend. You'll think like an ice cream cone will pop into your head, and your friend will be like, "Dude, I want to go get some ice cream," and like you guys are on the same vibrational thinking. So to do it across like a continent, your vibration has to be like on almost like a higher, I don't know, I'm just like trying to picture this in my head right now, like a higher frequency at a finer tune that would be able to get it, but I'm sure that would probably be possible. I don't know, I'm blown away. I'm trying to make sense of it right now, sorry. That's cool, I
When
believe
you
that.
when we talk about that in context to this girl, this French girl or wherever the hell she was from,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And you know, bring in the conversation, the Akashic records and all this other kind of stuff, and just you blip in from another reality and whatnot. It's almost like, you know, and from that, you know, the result of that was that this woman's face was plastered and all these dolls were like, you know, made in her image, and the
Mm-hmm.
CPR doll was made in her image. What if, you know, like that's like some other, what if that's some other intelligence, some other person like remote viewing us or whatever,
Right.
just to see like an experiment,
Right.
you know,
Dimensionally
or,
brought. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, totally
you
was
know what I
just.
mean?
Yeah, totally was like, or if not, like they're gonna need her or something like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally mean. Yeah.
What's the response going to be? Why
Yeah.
is the response that way? You know,
Yeah.
like it's almost poetic when you think about it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 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 That's weird.
It's kind of like this movie Millennium. You ever seen Millennium?
I don't think so.
I want to say it's like from the late 80s, but man, I used to love this movie when I was a kid. And so it takes place in the year, I don't know, 3000. And the world is just gone to crap. Like the environment's completely shattered, you know, like people have to make synthetic food. Humanity's dying, so to speak. And these time travelers go from this, what would that be, the 31st century back to the 20th century, and they use they use these fatal airline crashes, because you used to hear about those quite a bit, you know, like back in the 80s, at least when I was growing up, you know, like you just heard more about it on the news, like airliners would just crash and everyone would die and whatnot, and that just happened more often back then. But these time travelers would warp themselves into the plane before it crashes, take all the live people out, you know, like they're just like sheep. They would use some kind of, I might be remembering the movie a little bit differently, but like they would use some kind of harmonic resonator thing. They would pacify the people so they're not panicking, because these people just beamed into their plane like out of nowhere. Right. And then they would take these organic replicas, right? Like they were like drones almost. And like it was so weird, like where one passenger, he's being ushered out, right? And his drone clone is walking past him, and he's just like, what the hell? And then they sit in all the same seats that the live passengers were in. They warp out, they bring him back to the 31st century, and then the plane crashes. All the drones are killed. So whenever the wreckage is found, the DNA matches, everyone matches with their seats, their personal effects, their belongings, their clothing is all identical.
Trippy.
And then the real people who are in the 31st century are now sent to another alternate time, another alternate reality, to give humanity another chance.
Wow. Interesting.
It's a mind F, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's a good movie, man. Check it out. Millennium.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Anyone that's watching this, like, yeah, if you want to watch something about alternate realities and time travel and stuff, watch Millennium. It's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, we are actually finished up here. That was great. That was amazing. I love just chatting with you, Rob, because I'm gonna definitely check that Millennium movie out. I go rent it from Gorehounds. I bet they got it. By the way, my name is Colton Cass. You guys can check me out. Facebook.com/ColtonCass makes art. You can find me on Instagram at Colt_of_the_occult, and YouTube, Twitch. You can find me at SlimMonster the Witch. I don't know. I guess that's pretty much it for today. I really appreciate you guys joining in. Next week we are going to do episode 3, which is going to be called. I wrote it down. It's the Aluminum Hat Roundtable, where we talk about some of our favorite conspiracies.
That's awesome.
Did you like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so join us for the Aluminum Foil Hat Roundtable. I don't know, any last sayings?
No, man, I had a lot of fun this episode. I enjoy our conversations a lot, and you know me, like I love going down rabbit holes, you know, and just seeing where we end up.
Yeah.
So
same.
This was a fun one.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, we are out, and please join us next week. Like and subscribe. Yeah, love yous. Bye.
Bye.